Well, America's never been on the path of God to start.
Okay, why you say that, brother?
Because when it first started, remember now, everybody worships what you call a holiday that comes up every year, Thanksgiving. When it first started, it was cannibalism. They were eating people. That was the first day of Thanksgiving.
You said they was eating people, brother.
They were.
Go ahead.
But I didn't write these documents.
Okay.
Remember now, when the first ship came over here, it was all of the ones that they classified as outcasts they didn't want to be bothered with in the first place.
Okay.
And when it came over here, it was in the dead of winter, wasn't nobody, you know, it wasn't nothing live for them to eat, so they just started eating people. That's what they did, and the Indians was the meal. That was Thanksgiving for real now. The real truth.
So really, we can't say they deviated off the path of God. It was built on hatred, mistrust, and manipulation, huh?
Well, everything was set up for injustice. You know that. It's always set up for the greed of the well-being of those who are in positions of authority. Okay. Now, the Democrats and the Republicans, they really certain things. They just do things kind of different in their ways.
Well, Dr. Lee, why is the country and the state, have they deviated, get your opinion, off the path of God that has us in the state that we're in right now?
Well, let me say this. When you look at the Constitution, the principles that are laid down in that document, they came right out of the scriptures. They came right out of the scriptures. Now, what happened was, now this is the problem. The problem is you had people that come in and deliberately undermine those principles because for the simple reason of this. Now, let me give you certain things. So when you go back into the scriptures and you find out that, give you one example of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
In order to have freedom, one of the first things you got to have some form of economic freedom, some form of economics. Now, the system that was set up in the scriptures, they have a means of setting up. First of all, they didn't allow Israel, Yahweh didn't allow Israel to charge interest. 2, debts would be forgiven every 7 years. Okay. Debt wasn't allowed to build up. And then the third thing, money was not paper. Money was gold and silver. Okay. Now, all 3 of them principles, we've all what? We're violated. We got a debt that we can't pay. Okay. It keeps building up. You say, people, why don't you start all over? Why don't you just, you know, like you said, greed. Money is becoming more and more worthless. What happened to the penny candy? What happened to the penny candy that we grew up with? Because the money is being debased. So they have no gold. Because in order to have gold and silver, it's power.
But then President Bush said it was a surplus. He just gave us a check of $400, didn't he?
Listen, that was all a game to go out and spend money to keep the system going. In other words, America does not make anything anymore. We are not an industrial country. China and all the things are being made abroad. Now listen, you got a problem in this country.
Okay.
And the problem is you have no jobs no more. Jobs that are livable. Now, those of us that grew up in the 50s and 60s, you could leave high school and go into General Motors or a factory and get a job and get a wife and own a car and get a home. Now, listen, you get a high school education, you can't do nothing today.
Turned into a service-oriented society.
Those are not livable jobs. Those are you cannot build a family on those jobs. So actually, you've been reduced back to what my father say, sharecropping. The blacks was. And like my father said when he came up from Mississippi, in the 1920s, the reason he came up to Mississippi, he said that he asked this white man for 90 cents. He said, I ain't gonna pay no nigga that type of money. Okay. So what you have today is that the word, they like to use the word, we are all niggas in another sense because they ain't paying nobody livable wages anymore. They're shipping all these jobs to China and India where they got cheap slave wages.
Yeah, I read somewhere, brother, where somebody in Honduras, they make like 6 cents an hour.
Now you get it.
I read it.
Now how you gonna live here? They don't pay the people down there nothing. Then you live here unemployed. And who makes the money?
You jump to the next question. I was going, go ahead, you wanna?
Well, to iterate on that, you have to understand, the real truth of the matter is, you said it in the beginning of your statements that modern day slavery is what's implemented here for the people who are not able to put their hands in the industry. I have to have an employment system for somebody, so if I put you in jail, then watch you.
Yeah, that's a new plantation.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what the new jail is. So you can. I read where you can invest in jails on the stock market right now.